When Marcus Grant was turned away from a small-town diner in Oakwood, just because of his skin color and reputation, he could have lashed out, called for a boycott online, or stormed off in anger. Instead, he did something so unexpected, it didn't just change one diner, it shook an entire community. His response to rejection wasn't bitterness, it was kindness. In a world split by division, that was nothing short of shocking. The story starts on an ordinary evening at the Oakwood Diner, where a single choice sparked a chain of events no one saw coming. The sky was darkening the afternoon rain, leaving puddles glinting in the gravel lot of the Oakwood Diner. Marcus Grant pulled his black SUV under the flickering neon open sign. He was tired, his stomach growling. He hadn't eaten since a rushed energy bar during a morning Zoom call. As the CEO of a rising tech startup, Marcus was always on the move. But tonight he'd stopped in Oakwood, a quiet town, where he was scouting local businesses for investment. He pushed open the door, a small bell jingling above. The smell of fresh coffee and fried potatoes filled the air, mingling with soft country music from ceiling speakers. 6 tables were filled with locals eating dinner, their chatter lively. A waitress with curly brown hair tied in a ponytail looked up and smiled. Her name tag read, Lynn. "Sit anywhere you like," she called, balancing 3 plates like a pro. Marcus picked a small booth by the window, slid into the red vinyl seat, and grabbed the plastic menu. Everything looked good: burgers, mashed potatoes, and the special meatloaf. It reminded him of his grandmother's cooking on cold nights. The memory made him smile. Lynn finished delivering her orders and walked over with a glass of water and a notepad. "I start you with some coffee?" she asked, her tone warm. "That'd be great, thanks," Marcus said, nodding. But then a woman emerged from the kitchen, her apron dusted with flour, the name Huang stitched on it. She froze when she saw Marcus, her eyes narrowing like she'd spotted trouble. "Lynn," she barked. "Come here a sec." Lynn looked confused but set down her notepad and walked over. The two whispered by the cash register, Lynn glancing back at Marcus, her eyes widening. Huang's face reddened as she spoke, her arms crossing tightly. The diner's hum quieted. Customers noticed their conversations fading, leaving only the twang of music. A man at the counter set his coffee cup down with a sharp clink. Huang smoothed her apron and marched to Marcus's table, Lynn trailing behind, clutching her notepad like a shield. "I'm sorry," Huang said, her voice taut. "I can't serve you here." Marcus looked up, startled. "I know who you are, Mr. Grant. I don't agree with what you stand for, and I'm not comfortable with you in my diner." She crossed her arms, a chin raised. "This is my place, and I decide who eats." The diner went dead silent. Every eye turned to Marcus. Lynn stared at the floor, her face flushed. Marcus felt heat creep up his neck. His first instinct was to argue, to point out that a business shouldn't turn people away over skin color or reputation. He could make a scene, call a reporter, or post online where thousands of followers would rally behind him. But he took a deep breath, steadying himself. "I understand," he said, his voice low and even. He folded the menu, placed it back in its holder. "Thanks for being upfront. Have a good evening." He slid out of the booth and walked to the door, every stare burning into his back. The bell jingled as he stepped into the cool night air. In his car, Marcus sat still, hands on the wheel. His stomach still growled, but now a heavier weight pressed his chest. Rejection wasn't new. He'd grown up black in a small town, facing wary glances and closed doors. But this stung. Through the diner's window, he saw Huang talking to customers, her hands gesturing fast as she explained. Some nodded. Others looked uneasy. Lynn stood by the coffee maker, eyes fixed on her shoes. Marcus pulled out his phone, scrolled through his contacts, and found the number he wanted. He hit call. It rang 3 times before a voice answered. "Hey, it's Marcus," he said, his gaze still on the diner's warm golden lights. "Remember that small business investment we talked about last month? I think I found the perfect spot." He smiled faintly. "Tomorrow work, I'll send the details. Trust me, this'll surprise everyone." He hung up, started the car. The radio kicked on an old Marvin Gaye song, filling the air as he pulled out of the lot. The anger was gone, replaced by something else, something like hope. Inside, Lynn watched Marcus's car vanish down the dark road. The diner's buzz returned, but a knot stayed in her stomach. "Can you believe it?" Huang said, standing beside her. "He just left no fight." Lynn bit her lip. "Did we have to do that? He just wanted dinner." Huang's face hardened. My family lost our farm because of policies people like him back. I can't serve someone like that and feel okay. Lynn nodded but said nothing. The bell jingled as a family of four walked in. Huang flashed her usual smile, leading them to a table. For the rest of her shift, Lynn took orders and delivered plates, but her mind kept replaying Marcus's face when Huang turned him away. He hadn't looked angry. He'd looked sad. That night, Lynn trudged up 3 flights of stairs to her apartment. The elevator had been broken for months, the landlord promising next week for repairs. She'd stopped believing him. The hallway smelled of burnt dinner. Lynn dug for her keys, moving quietly. It was nearly midnight, and her grandmother was likely asleep. She eased the door open and stepped into the dark living room. A small lamp flicked on. "You're late?" a gentle voice said. Her grandmother sat in a faded armchair, a crocheted blanket over her lap. Her silver hair was loosely braided, reading glasses dangling from a chain. "Sorry, Grandma. Huang asked me to stay for inventory." Lynn set her bag down, kicking off her shoes. "Why are you up? Did you take your meds?" Mai waved the question away. "Of course I did. I'm not a kid." She patted the couch. "Sit. You look troubled." Lynn sank onto the couch. She could never hide from Mai, who'd raised her since she was 8 after her parents died in a car crash. Something happened at the diner, Lynn began. She told Mai about Marcus Grant, how Huang refused him in front of everyone. And the weird thing, he didn't get mad. He just said, "I understand," and left. Mai frowned. "Maybe you and Huang were wrong," she said softly. "Turning someone away over a disagreement, that's not how I raised you." Lynn sighed. "But Huang's the boss." "I need this job. Your meds cost so much and rent went up again." Mai took Lynn's hand. "Don't worry about me. But sending someone away is serious. It says they're not welcome. That's a heavy message." Lynn went quiet. She thought of Marcus, the call he made in his car. What had he done after leaving? Found another place to eat maybe, or told friends about mean Huang and her diner. Tomorrow would be just another day at Oakwood. Or so she thought. Lynn had no idea a storm was brewing, sparked by Marcus Grant's unthinkable choice. The next morning, Lynn's alarm blared at 5:30 a.m. She groaned, swiping at her phone, knocking it to the floor. Morning shifts were rough, but they paid an extra $1 an hour. She showered fast, checked on Mai, still sleeping peacefully, and left a note on the kitchen counter. "Lunch in the fridge, call, if you need me, love you." The air was chilly. Lynn zipped her jacket and walked briskly down empty streets. The sun was just rising, painting the sky pink and gold. As she turned the corner to the Oakwood diner, she stopped dead. A crowd of at least 30 people stood outside. Her heart sank. Protesters had Marcus sent people to picket, but as she got closer, something felt off. No signs, no chants. Some held gas station coffee cups, others chatted in small groups. An older man checked his watch. "Excuse me," Lynn said, pushing through. "I work here." "What's going on?" A woman in a red coat smiled. "We're waiting for you to open. Is it true Marcus Grant recommended this place?" Lynn blinked, baffled. "What a man cut in. Saw his post. Said it's got the best homestyle food in the county." Before Lynn could reply, a news van pulled up. A slick-haired reporter with a microphone jumped out, followed by a cameraman. "Perfect timing," he said, spotting Lynn. "You work here. I'm Min Juk, Channel 8 News. Can we get a statement on this social media sensation?" "I don't know what you're talking about," Lynn said, fumbling her keys to unlock the door. "I need to open up." "Sorry." She slipped inside, locking the door behind her. The diner was dark except for kitchen lights. Lynn flipped the main switches, fluorescent bulbs humming to life. She hung her jacket tight on her apron, trying to make sense of it all. Her phone showed 3 missed calls from Huang. She was about to call back when the back door slammed open. Lynn thanked God. Huang rushed in, face-flushed blonde hair in a messy ponytail. No makeup. "You seen outside that crowd? They say Marcus Grant's hyping us online." Huang shoved her phone at Lynn. On the screen was Marcus's post with a photo of the diner's blue awning and window boxes. He wrote, "Got turned away from this charming Oakwood gem last night because they didn't vibe with me. I respect their right to refuse, but trust me, their meatloaf special smelled incredible, and everyone inside looked happy. Small businesses are America's heartbeat, even if they don't want my business. If you're nearby, give Oakwood Diner a try and see for yourself. Always support local." Lynn looked up stunned. He's sending people to eat here. After you kicked him out, Huang shook her head. Makes no sense. Is this a trick? Is he trying to make me look bad? Lin reread the post. Doesn't feel like a trick. Feels like forgiveness. Huang snorted. Nobody's that nice, especially not guys like him. The front door rattled as someone knocked. Minjuk waved through the glass, pointing at his watch. 20 minutes till we open, Huang shouted. Just want a quick word on the viral post, Minjuk called back. Viral, Huang muttered, paling. We'd better start cooking, Lin said, practical. Those people will want breakfast. The next 15 minutes were a whirlwind. Huang called the other waitress Thao to come early. They brewed extra coffee, mixed double batches of pancake batter. Lin fired up all 4 grills instead of the usual 2. At exactly 6:30 a.m., Huang unlocked the door. Customers streamed in, filling every table and booth in minutes. Minjuk and his cameraman set up in a corner. Just one statement he begged, trailing Huang as she handed out menus. No comment, Huang snapped. Order breakfast or move. Minjuk grinned. Fine pancake special. By 7:00, they had a wait list. Huang called the lunch shift cook Tung to come early. The kitchen was chaos, plates flying, sizzling meat drowning out the music. Lin glanced at the door every time the bell jingled, half expecting Marcus to walk in. During a rare lull, she found Huang by the window, staring at the crowd outside. We'll run out of food at this rate, Huang said quietly. Never been this busy, not even Christmas morning. Isn't that good, Lin asked. Huang shook her head, her face troubled. I don't know what this is. Why would he do this? I insulted him, threw him out. Lin had no answer, but she remembered Marcus's eyes last night, not angry but sad. And now he'd done the unthinkable, turned the diner that rejected him into the town's hottest spot. Was he really that kind, or was Huang right, and this was a setup only time would tell? But as the bell jingled again and an elderly couple walked in asking loudly, is this where Marcus Grant got turned away but still said to come support Lin, knew the story was just beginning. The Oakwood diner was buzzing like never before, a whirlwind of clinking plates and chattering voices, all sparked by Marcus Grant's unexpected kindness. His social media post had turned a quiet small-town eatery into a county sensation overnight, drawing crowds, news vans, and whispers of something bigger brewing. But beneath the chaos, questions lingered. Was Marcus's gesture genuine, or was there a catch? Huang, the diner's stubborn owner, wrestled with doubt, while Lin, her young waitress, felt a shift she couldn't name. As the week unfolded, a letter arrived, secret surfaced, and the threads of an old friendship began to weave a story no one in Oakwood could have predicted. The morning after Marcus's post, the diner was a madhouse. By 8:00 a.m., every table was packed, and a line snaked out the door. Lin darted between booths, refilling coffee and jotting orders, her feet already aching. Huang, usually calm under pressure, looked frazzled, barking instructions to Tung the cook as pancakes sizzled on the grills. Minjuk, the Channel 8 reporter, lingered at the counter, nursing his coffee and fishing for quotes. Come on, Huang, just one soundbite, he pressed. Huang shot him a glare. Unless you're ordering seconds, I'm busy. The crowd wasn't just locals. People had driven from neighboring towns, curious about the diner Marcus Grant had praised after being turned away. Some snapped photos of the blue awning. Others asked Lin if that CEO guy was coming back. She didn't know what to say. By noon, the lunch rush hit hard. Huang had to call in Mr. Jenkins, the weekend dishwasher, to help clear tables. Lin overheard customers debating Marcus's post. It's got to be a PR stunt, a man in a flannel shirt said, cutting into his burger. Nobody's that nice for free. His friend shook her head. My buddy works with his company. Says Marcus is the real deal, always helping small businesses. Lin moved on, but the chatter followed her. Some thought Marcus was setting Huang up to fail. Others believed he meant every word about supporting local. No one agreed, and that uncertainty hung over the diner like a storm cloud. In a brief lull, Lin found Huang in the tiny office staring at her phone. It's still spreading, Huang said, her voice tight. She showed Lin the screen. Marcus's post had thousands of shares with comments ranging from praise to outrage. One news site had picked it up. CEO turned away from diner, responds with kindness. Another headline read, Racial divide, Oakwood diner rejects Marcus Grant. They're making it bigger than it is, Huang muttered. I didn't turn him away because he's black. It's his politics, his influence. Lynn nodded, but she wasn't sure Huang believed her own words. The bell jingled and Lynn hurried back to work, leaving Huang to her thoughts. That night, Lynn collapsed onto the couch in her grandmother Mai's apartment, her legs throbbing. Mai was knitting the TV muted on a local news channel. Minjuk's face flashed on screen standing outside the diner. The Oakwood Diner, now a viral sensation, remains tight-lipped about why they refused service to tech CEO Marcus Grant, he said. Lynn grabbed the remote and switched it off. It's all twisted, she groaned. They don't know Huang's story. Mai set her knitting down. And what's her story, child? Lynn hesitated. She says her family lost their farm because of policies Marcus's type push. Her dad died bitter, and she's carrying that. Mai's eyes softened. Everyone's got pain, but holding it against a man who just wanted a meal, that's a choice. Lynn thought about Marcus's face when he left calm but hurt. Do you think he'll make trouble? Tell people to boycott us. Mai smiled faintly. People surprise you sometimes. I hope he doesn't, but Huang's made her bed. She picked up her needles. Whatever happens tomorrow, be kind, Lynn. That's what lasts. Lynn nodded, but Mai's words felt like a riddle. As she lay in bed later, she couldn't shake the feeling that something big was coming. Marcus's phone call in his car, Huang's worried glances at the account books, the crowd outside it all pointed to a story unfinished. The next day, the crowd was smaller but steady. Huang looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes. Couldn't sleep, she admitted to Lynn, flipping pancakes with sharp flicks. The bank called. They want to talk about a loan I applied for last month. Suddenly, I'm a good risk because of this. She laughed bitterly. One busy week and they think I'm golden. Lynn frowned. Isn't that good? Huang paused, her spatula still. Is it I kicked a man out because I couldn't stand him? Now he's made my diner famous. What does that make me? Before Lynn could answer, the front door rattled with impatient knocks. The breakfast rush was starting. By midweek, the diner was still packed. Huang ordered extra supplies, hired 2 new waitresses, and made daily bank runs to deposit the overflowing cash. Lynn sorted through a growing pile of mail bills, business letters, and what Huang called opinion mail. People from across the country wrote to Huang, some cheering her stand, others hurling insults. Huang stopped reading them after a nasty one called her a bigot. But one morning, Lynn spotted an envelope different from the rest, cream-colored, heavier, with neat slanted handwriting and no return address. It was addressed to Huang. Lynn set it aside, sensing it mattered. During a quiet moment before the lunch rush, Lynn handed Huang the envelope. This came today. It feels personal. Huang sighed, turning it over. If it's another lecture, I'm not in the mood. But she didn't toss it with the opinion mail. She slipped it into her pocket and went back to scheduling. Lynn didn't see the envelope again until closing time. She was wiping tables when she noticed Huang in a corner booth. The envelope opened, a letter in her hands. Huang's face was still one hand pressed to her mouth. Everything okay? Lynn asked softly. Huang startled. What? Oh, yeah. She folded the letter carefully. Actually, no. I don't know. She shook her head. It's from him, Marcus Grant. Lynn froze. What's it say? Huang's voice was low. It's not what I expected. Before she could explain, Tung called from the kitchen, ready to leave. Huang tucked the letter away and went to lock up. Lynn watched her questions swirling. What could Marcus have written to leave Huang so shaken? The next day was Sunday. The diner closed. Lynn spent the morning with Mai, folding laundry and grocery shopping. Her phone rang at 3:10 p.m. It was Huang. Can you come to the diner at 4:00? Huang asked, her voice urgent but calm. Staff meeting. It's important. Lynn's stomach tightened. Is something wrong? No, not wrong. Just come. Huang hung up. At 4:00, Lynn joined the staff at the diner. Thao, the new waitresses, Tung, and even Mr. Jenkins all gathered around, pushed together tables, sipping coffee and guessing what was up. Maybe she's selling, Thao whispered. All this buzz would jack up the price. A new waitress shrugged. Or expanding. My cousin's place got famous and opened 2 more spots. The bell jingled and Huang walked in. She looked different, her hair softer, wearing a blue dress instead of her usual jeans. Thanks for coming on your day off, she said, standing at the head of the tables. She took a deep breath. I've been thinking a lot this week about the diner you all, and what happened with Marcus Grant. The room went quiet. No one had dared mention Marcus to Huang's face. She pulled the cream envelope from her purse. I got a letter from him. I'd like to read it to you. No one objected. Huang unfolded the letter, her hand steady, and began. Dear Ms. Huang, first thank you for your honesty at your diner. In a world where people hide their feelings, your directness was refreshing. She paused, her breath catching. My grandmother taught me that when someone rejects you, kindness is the best response, not to look good, but because everyone has reasons we might not understand. Lynn glanced around. Everyone was riveted, even Mr. Jenkins, who usually fidgeted. Huang continued, her voice softening. I didn't recommend your diner to embarrass you. I did it because even in my short visit, I saw something special, the way your staff respects you, the smell of real home cooking, the kids' drawings on your bulletin board. These things matter. Places like yours hold communities together. Huang's voice wavered. My work comes from wanting to lift up struggling towns like Oakwood. We may disagree on how, but I believe we want the same things: good jobs, safe streets, hope for our kids' futures. She looked up briefly, then back to the letter. I don't ask you to agree with me or serve me if I return. That's your right. I just ask you to keep doing what you do, serving good food and giving your town a place to gather. That's bigger than any disagreement. Huang lowered the letter. He signed it Marcus. Her hands trembled slightly. I was unfair. I judged him without knowing him, and when he could have fought back, he chose kindness. The room was silent. Lynn felt her throat tighten. Huang squared her shoulders. So I've made a decision, and I want you all to hear it first. Before she could finish, a loud bang echoed from the kitchen. Water gushed across the floor, a pipe had burst. Chaos erupted. Tung grabbed mops. Thao ran for buckets, and Huang shouted for the plumber's number. The meeting dissolved in the scramble. Lynn got home late, soaked and exhausted. Mai was watching a movie, a bowl of popcorn in her lap. You look like you swam home, Mai teased. Bad day, Lynn flopped beside her. Flood at the diner. But before that, something big happened. She told Mai about Marcus's letter, reciting what she could remember. Mai's face changed, a flicker of recognition crossing it. Grandma, what is it? Lynn asked. Mai set her popcorn aside and stood steadying herself on the couch. Wait here. She shuffled to her bedroom drawers, creaking open. Minutes later, she returned with a faded blue photo album. Haven't looked at these in years, she murmured, flipping brittle pages. She stopped at a photo of two teenage girls on a porch step. One was a young Mai, serious and slim. The other had wild curls and a bold smile. That's Lan, Mai said softly. Everyone called her Mama. Lynn stared. Mama? As in Marcus Grant's grandmother. Mai nodded, touching the photo. We grew up together in Mississippi. Best friends from the time we could walk till I moved away at 18. Lynn's jaw dropped. You knew his grandmother. Why didn't you say anything? Mai smiled faintly. Wasn't sure at first. Grant's not her family name, and plenty of folks had tough grandmas from the South, but that led her kindness over rejection. That's pure Lan. Lynn looked at the photo again. The girl who'd become Marcus's grandmother had a fierce glint in her eyes, her arms slung protectively around young Mai. What was she like? Lynn asked. Mai laughed. Tough as nails, soft underneath. Took no nonsense. If she loved you, she'd fight the world for you. If not, you'd feel it. How'd you lose touch? Lynn asked. Life, Mai said simply. I moved for work, she stayed. We wrote letters for a while, but this was before phones and email. She turned another page, showing more photos, Lan and Mai at a creek in school uniforms decorating a Christmas tree. We came from nothing, Mai said. Dirt poor. But Lan always said we'd make something of ourselves. Her voice grew distant. I became a nurse. She raised a family. Wasn't easy from what I heard. Lynn recalled snippets about Marcus's childhood, growing up poor with his grandmother as his anchor. And now her grandson's a big-shot CEO, Lynn said, ending up in our diner. Life's full of circles, Mai said, closing the album. Would you want to meet him? Lynn asked. I could tell Huang. Mai shook her head. Let's not rush. Huang's got her own path to walk. She picked up her popcorn. But yes, I'd like to meet Lan's grandson. See what kind of man she raised. That night, Lynn lay awake thinking about those circles. How strange that Marcus, tied to her grandmother's past, walked into the Oakwood diner that night. How stranger still that his choice, kindness over anger, echoed a lesson from a woman who'd grown up with Mai. It felt like more than chance. It felt like a story with chapters yet to come. The Oakwood Diner had become more than a place to eat. It was a symbol, a battleground of ideas, and now a crossroads of past and present. Marcus Grant's act of kindness, turning rejection into a spotlight for the diner, had set off a wave that was still rippling through the small town. Huang, grappling with her own regrets, stood on the edge of a decision that could change everything. Lin, caught between loyalty to her boss and the pull of her grandmother, Mai's wisdom, felt the weight of a story unfolding. A letter had stirred hearts, a forgotten friendship had resurfaced, and now the possibility of a second chance loomed. But would it heal old wounds or open new ones? The answer waited in the quiet moments before a dinner no one in Oakwood would forget. The week after Marcus's letter arrived, the diner stayed relentlessly busy. Huang hired another cook and ordered new menus with slightly higher prices to cover the extra staff. Lin worked double shifts, her new role as assistant manager looming if the diner kept growing. But Huang was different, quieter, her movements mechanical. Every mention of Marcus's name made her flinch, as if his letter had cracked something inside her. Lin noticed her boss lingering by the window, staring at the empty storefront next door, a space Huang had once dreamed of expanding into, but could never afford. "We'll run out of tables soon," Lin said one afternoon, trying to lighten the mood. Huang nodded absently. Maybe, but at what cost? Lin didn't press, sensing Huang was wrestling with more than just logistics. On Monday morning, Lin arrived early to sort deliveries. The mailman handed her a thick stack. "Huang's famous now," he said with a grin. "Everyone's writing to the viral diner lady." Lin forced a smile, taking the bundle. Most were the usual bills, supplier invoices, and the growing pile of opinion mail Huang ignored. But one letter stood out, the same cream-colored envelope as Marcus's, with his neat handwriting. It was addressed to Huang, marked personal. Lin's pulse quickened. She tucked it into her apron, determined to give it to Huang privately. The breakfast rush was brutal, with a line out the door by 7:00 a.m. Minjuk, the Channel 8 reporter, was back sniffing for a follow-up story. "Heard Marcus might be coming back," he said to Lin, leaning over the counter. Any truth to that? Lin kept her face neutral. "You'd have to ask Huang." Minjuk smirked but dropped it, ordering his usual pancakes. During a rare lull, Lin found Huang in the kitchen checking inventory. "Another letter came," Lin said, handing her the envelope. Huang's eyes widened, then narrowed. From him, Lin nodded. Huang turned it over, her fingers tracing the edges. "I'll read it later," she said, but she didn't put it with the opinion mail. She slipped it into her pocket, her expression unreadable. That night, Lin got home to find Mai in her armchair, a photo album open in her lap. The picture of young Mai and Lon Marcus's grandmother stared up at her. "Been thinking about her," Mai said softly, wondering what she'd make of all this. Lin sat beside her. "Huang got another letter from Marcus today. She hasn't told me what the first one said, but it's eating at her." Mai closed the album. "Sometimes it's harder to accept kindness than to give it. Huang's carrying a lot, her family's paying her pride. Marcus's letter might be asking her to let some of that go." Lin frowned. "You think she'll do it?" Mai's eyes twinkled. "Depends on how brave she is." The next morning, Huang called Lin at 5:15 a.m., her voice urgent. "Can you come in early? I need to talk about what I was going to say at the staff meeting before the pipe burst." Lin dressed quickly, checking on Mai, who was still asleep. The photo album lay on the coffee table, a bookmark at the page with Mai and Lan. The streets were empty as Lin walked to the diner, the sky shifting from black to deep blue. When she arrived, the diner's lights glowed warmly. Huang sat alone at the counter, a mug of coffee in front of her. Lin knocked on the glass and Huang waved her in. "Coffee?" Huang asked, pouring a mug as Lin sat beside her. The diner felt vast, without customers, like a stage waiting for its actors. "I couldn't sleep," Huang admitted, staring into her cup. "Kept thinking about Marcus's letter, his first one, and now another came." She pulled the cream envelope from her apron. "I'm going to invite him back." Lin nearly spilled her coffee. "Really?" Huang nodded. "I judged him unfairly, Lin. Based on his reputation, his race, what I thought he stood for. My dad always said strong people admit when they're wrong. I was wrong." Lin was stunned. Huang rarely admitted fault, not about recipes or schedules, let alone deeply held beliefs. "That's brave," Lin said finally. Huang gave a small laugh. "Feels terrifying. What if it's a mistake? What if he twists it against me?" Lynn shook her head. From his letter, that doesn't sound like him. Huang sipped her coffee. That's why I need your help. I want to write an invitation, something respectful, not groveling. I'm no good with words. Lynn felt a warmth in her chest. Huang, so guarded, was asking for her input. As they brainstormed, Lynn hesitated, then decided to share Mai's revelation. There's something you should know, she said. It's kind of wild. She told Huang about Mai and Lan, how they'd been childhood friends in Mississippi. Huang's jaw dropped. You're serious. Your grandmother knew his grandmother. Lynn nodded. Best friends till Mai moved away. She's got photos, stories, everything. Huang set her mug down, hard coffee sloshing. That's incredible. Like it's meant to be. Lynn smiled. Fate, maybe. Huang wiped up the spill, thoughtful. What if we invite both of them, Marcus and your grandmother? Make it a real talk, not just an apology dinner. Her eyes lit up. Private after hours. Just us four, you and me, Marcus and Mai. You for your grandmother and me? I might need the backup. Lynn grinned. Sounds perfect. They spent the next hour drafting the invitation, Huang insisting it be handwritten like Marcus's letter. They tore through drafts, aiming for a tone that was sincere, but not overdone. Finally, they settled on Dear Mr. Grant. Thank you for your letter. Your kindness after my rejection has made me rethink many things. I'd like to invite you to dinner at the Oakwood Diner on Friday at 7:00 p.m. after we close. I want to apologize in person and offer the meal you were denied. There's also something remarkable. My waitress Lynn's grandmother, Mai Tran, believes she was childhood friends with your grandmother in Mississippi. She has photos and memories to share if you are interested. This isn't a publicity stunt, no press, no cameras, just a chance to talk as people, not agendas. Sincerely, Huang Nguyen. Huang sealed it in a diner-branded envelope, writing Marcus's name carefully. How do we get this to him, she wondered. Lynn had an idea. Min Juk, that reporter, he said he's covering Marcus's talk at the community college tomorrow. I could ask him to deliver it. Huang frowned. Can we trust a reporter with a private letter? Lynn shrugged. He's been fair so far. By the time the morning staff arrived, the diner's routine took over, brewing coffee, flipping chairs off tables. But Huang moved lighter, her smiles less forced. As Lynn tied her apron, Huang called out, Do you think he'll come? Lynn nodded. I do. He seems like someone who believes in second chances. Huang squared her shoulders, greeting the first customers. Under her breath, Lynn heard her whisper, I hope you're right. Minjuk agreed to deliver the letter, promising not to make it a story, though his curious grin suggested it was a hard promise to keep. 2 days later, Huang got a text from an unknown number, Miss Nguyen. This is Marcus Grant. Thank you for your invitation. I'd be honored to join you Friday at 7:00. The connection to my grandmother is deeply meaningful. May I bring dessert? Huang read it to Lynn, her hands shaking. He said yes, she kept saying. He's coming. And bringing dessert? Lynn laughed. That's a good sign. Planning for Friday consumed the diner. Huang crafted a special menu, testing meatloaf recipes until she perfected a maple glaze version even Tung praised. Nothing fancy, she insisted. Just our best. Lynn brought Mai to meet Huang on Wednesday. The two sat in a corner booth, poring over Mai's photo album. Lan was fearless, Mai told Huang, pointing to a photo of the girls at 12. Some boys were tormenting a stray dog. Lan marched up, told them she'd make them regret it if they didn't stop. They ran like she was 10 feet tall. Huang smiled, her guard softening. It was hard to see Marcus as a threat when you pictured his grandmother saving strays. At home, Mai fussed over her outfit. It's just dinner, Grandma Lynn said. Wear what's comfortable. Mai insisted on a green dress that matched her eyes, paired with a cardigan and a silver pin Lan had given her at 16. He might recognize it, Mai said, fastening it. It was her family's. Word spread that something was happening at the diner Friday night. The staff kept quiet, but rumors swirled. Some thought Marcus was returning. Others guessed a food critic was visiting. Min Juk showed up Thursday, fishing again. Is Marcus dining here tomorrow? He asked Lynn. She gave him a look. You promised no stories. He raised his hands. I haven't, but people talk. Huang overheard and stepped in. Mr. Juk, this is private. Please respect that. Min Juk nodded, but Lynn worried other reporters might not be so restrained. Friday dawned crisp and clear. Huang arrived before sunrise, prepping, even though the diner wouldn't close until 6:00 p.m., leaving just an hour to set up. Lynn came at noon, finding the kitchen in organized chaos, fresh rolls baking their scent filling the air. "It's just dinner," Lynn teased. "Not a royal feast." Huang wiped flour from her cheek. "I want it perfect." The day blurred by. At 5:30, Lynn called Mai to confirm she was ready. Tung offered to pick her up. At 6:00, Huang flipped the closed sign and locked the door. The staff cleared the best table near the window, hidden from the street. Huang brought out a tablecloth and cloth napkins, rare touches for the diner. "What if it's awkward?" Huang asked, pausing mid-silverware. "What if we run out of things to say?" Lynn smiled. "With your food, Marcus's stories, and Grandma's memories, you'll be fighting to get a word in." At 6:30, Mai arrived with Tung, looking radiant in her green dress, her white hair neatly styled, the silver pin gleaming. She carried the photo album in a cloth bag. "You look beautiful," Grandma Lynn said, hugging her. Mai smoothed her dress nervously. "Will he see the girl from those photos?" "It was so long ago." Lynn squeezed her hand. "He'll see it." At 6:55, everything was ready. The table set food, warming soft music from the diner's old radio. Huang had changed into a simple black dress, but kept her apron, a nod to her roots that made Lynn smile. A car pulled up outside. Huang took a deep breath. "Here we go," she whispered. The knock was soft but clear. Huang smoothed her apron, hesitated a moment, then unlocked the door and opened it. Marcus Grant stood there holding a bakery box tied with string. He wore a navy button-down and khakis, casual but polished. His smile was warm but cautious. "Ms. Nguyen," he said, offering his hand. "Thank you for inviting me." Huang shook it. "Call me Huang, and thank you for coming, especially after last time." Marcus waved it off. Water under the bridge. Lynn watched from beside Mai's table. Marcus was taller than she remembered, his eyes kind but sharp, crinkling when he smiled. "I brought pie," he said, lifting the box. "Apple from Betty's Bakery on Elm. They said it's the best in town." Huang nodded. "Betty doesn't lie. Her pies win county fairs." The moment felt surreal to Lynn. 2 weeks ago, Huang wouldn't serve Marcus a coffee. Now they were chatting about pie like neighbors. "Let me introduce you," Huang said, guiding Marcus to the table. "This is Lynn Tran, my best waitress." She winked at Lynn. "She's the one who helped me see things differently." Marcus shook Lynn's hand. "Nice to officially meet you." Huang continued. "And this is Mai Tran, Lynn's grandmother." Marcus turned to Mai, who sat straight, hands folded. The moment he saw her, his face changed. He went still, his eyes softening. "Mrs. Tran," he said quietly. Mai smiled, her eyes glistening. "You look just like your Uncle Bobby," she said. "Lan's brother." Same eyes. Marcus set the pie box on a nearby table and moved closer. "You really knew my grandmother when she was young?" Mai nodded, patting the chair beside her. "Sit, young man. I've got stories." As Marcus sat, Mai opened the album. "This is where it starts," she said, pointing to the photo of her and Lan on the porch. Marcus leaned in, his breath catching. "Mama," he whispered, touching the image of the wild-haired girl with the fierce smile. "I've never seen her this young." Mai turned the page. "We were 14 here at the creek where we dodged chores every summer." Lin and Huang exchanged a glance, feeling the weight of the moment. Huang motioned to the kitchen. "Let's give them a minute," she whispered. "This is bigger than dinner." In the kitchen, they checked the food, the murmur of Marcus and Mai's voices drifting in. Marcus laughed once, and Mai exclaimed, "That's right, I'd forgotten." After 15 minutes, Huang peeked out. They'd reached the album's end. "Food's ready," she called, carrying a platter of maple-glazed meatloaf. Lin followed with mashed potatoes and green beans. "This looks incredible," Marcus said, helping Mai close the album. "Haven't had a meal like this in weeks." They settled around the table, a brief awkward pause hanging until Mai bowed her head for a quiet blessing. The others followed and the tension eased. As they ate, conversation flowed smoother than Lin expected. Marcus shared stories about his grandmother that made Mai nod. She was the same as an adult, Mai said. Loyal to a fault, tough but tender. Marcus agreed. "She saved me, gave me stability when life was a mess." He looked at Mai. "Did you know she kept your high school graduation photo in her Bible till she died? I found it later, didn't know who you were." Mai's hand flew to her mouth, tears welling. "I had no idea she followed me." Marcus smiled gently. "She did. Had clippings too, your nursing degree, a community award from '87. Mai whispered all those years I thought she'd forgotten. The meal continued, the food a backdrop to their connection. Huang's stiffness faded as she watched Marcus listen to Mai's stories. Finally, she set down her fork. I owe you an apology, Marcus. I judged you without giving you a chance. Marcus shook his head. Everyone's got their reasons. Huang fidgeted with her napkin. My parents lost their farm in the recession. Dad blamed people like you, big names, big ideas. When he died, I swore I'd never support that world. But that's no excuse for how I treated you. Marcus leaned forward. I get it more than you think. I grew up seeing folks lose everything: jobs, homes, hope. That's why I do what I do to help places like Oakwood. He smiled. We might agree on more than you think if it's about helping people. Lin watched Huang nod, the tension in her shoulders loosening. After dinner, they served the apple pie with ice cream. Marcus insisted on clearing plates despite Huang's protests. Over dessert talk turned lighter books, movies, local fishing spots. When Mai yawned, Lin glanced at the clock, nearly 10 p.m. I should get Grandma home, she said reluctantly. Marcus stood. Of course. He took Mai's hand. Mrs. Tran, meeting you was a gift. Like finding a piece of my grandmother I didn't know I'd lost. Mai patted his cheek. You're a good man. Lan would be proud. She pressed the album into his hands. Take this. I have copies. She'd want you to have it. Marcus protested, but Mai insisted, and he accepted it like a treasure. As they gathered their things, Huang pulled Lin aside. Can I talk to Marcus alone for a bit? There's something I need to discuss. Lin nodded, curious but respectful. She helped Mai with her cardigan and watched Marcus shake Huang's hand. Best meal I've had in years, he said. Huang smiled, more open than Lin had ever seen. Next time you're in town, the door's open. No invitation needed. Lin and Mai stepped outside, the night air, cool. Lin glanced back through the window. Marcus and Huang sat at the table, talking intently, their silhouettes framed by the diner's soft glow. That went well, Mai said as they walked to Lin's car. Better than anyone hoped. Lin wondered what Huang and Marcus were saying, but for now she was content. A bridge had been built, and maybe that was enough for one night. The dinner at the Oakwood Diner had been a turning point, a quiet moment where walls came down and stories intertwined. Marcus Grant's kindness had not only saved the diner from obscurity, but had also sparked a connection that reached back decades, linking his grandmother Lan to Lin's grandmother Mai. Huang, once rigid in her anger, had opened her heart, but the private conversation she held with Marcus after the dinner left Lin wondering what more could be unfolding. The diner was thriving, but beneath the surface, Huang was grappling with a choice that could redefine its future, and the town's. As whispers of change spread, an unexpected offer emerged, tying the past to a promise of tomorrow in ways no one in Oakwood could have foreseen. The days following the Friday dinner were a blur of activity at the diner. Lin noticed Huang seemed distracted, her eyes often drifting to the empty storefront next door, her hands fidgeting during quiet moments. Lin didn't ask about her talk with Marcus. She figured Huang would share when ready. The diner's newfound fame showed no signs of fading. Customers came from hours away, some drawn by Marcus's post, others by news stories framing the diner as a battleground of reconciliation. Minjuk, the Channel 8 reporter, kept showing up, though Huang brushed him off with practiced ease. No story here, she'd say, but her smile was less forced now, as if the dinner had lightened a load she'd carried too long. On Monday morning, Lin arrived to find Huang in her office, staring at a crisp white envelope with a logo Lin didn't recognize. Everything okay? Lin asked, setting down a stack of menus. Huang looked up, her expression a mix of disbelief and nerves. I need to call a staff meeting tomorrow before opening. Lin's stomach twisted. The last meeting had been cut short by a burst pipe, but Huang's tone suggested something bigger this time. Is it bad news? Lin ventured. Huang shook her head. Not bad, just unexpected. She tucked the envelope into her desk drawer and stood. Let's get through today first. That night, Lin told Mai about Huang's cryptic behavior. Mai was knitting the photo album of her and Lan, now a fixture on the coffee table. She's at a crossroads, Mai said wisely. Marcus's kindness might have opened a door she's scared to walk through. Lin frowned. You think it's about him, Mai's needles click softly. Or what he represents. Change is hard even when it's good. Lin thought of Marcus's letter, his calm face at dinner. Whatever Huang was holding back, it felt tied to that night. Tuesday morning, the staff gathered around pushed-together tables, the air thick with anticipation. Thao, the other waitress, brought donuts from Betty's bakery, a rare treat that eased the tension. Tung, the cook, sipped coffee, while Mr. Jenkins tapped his fingers nervously. Huang walked in her hair, neatly pulled back, wearing her usual jeans but with a crisp blouse. "Thanks for coming early," she said, standing at the head of the tables. "I've got news and I want you to hear it from me before the town starts buzzing." The room stilled. Lin leaned forward, her heart racing. Huang took a deep breath. "You all know business has been good since Marcus Grant's post. But what you don't know is we've been struggling for years. Last month before all this, I applied for a small business loan to fix the kitchen and add hours. I was denied. Our profits were too thin, and the bank saw us as a risk." She paused, pulling the white envelope from her apron. "But something's changed. After our dinner Friday, Marcus told me something I didn't expect." Lin's mind flashed to Marcus in his car that first night, making a call after Huang turned him away. She'd thought he was venting, but now she wondered. Huang continued, her voice steady but emotional. "That night after I refused him service, Marcus called a friend who runs a small business investment fund. He was already in Oakwood looking for local businesses to back. Even after I kicked him out, he recommended the Oakwood Diner." Murmurs rippled through the staff. Thao's eyes widened and Tung set his coffee down hard. Lin's breath caught. This was no PR stunt. Huang held up the envelope. "This fund invests in small businesses in struggling towns. They offer capital for renovations, expansion, better equipment, whatever helps the business grow and create jobs. Yesterday I got an offer from them." The room went silent. "They want to invest in us," Huang said, her voice trembling. "Enough to rebuild the kitchen, expand into the storefront next door, and add a proper waiting area. No more customers standing in the rain." Lin's mind raced. The vacant storefront had been empty since the hardware store closed years ago. Doubling the diner's space would change everything. "Wait," Thao said, raising a hand. "What's the catch? Do they want to turn us into some fancy chain?" Huang shook her head. "That's the crazy part. They don't want control. I keep full ownership, make all decisions. The only terms are we create at least 5 new jobs and offer health insurance to full-time staff." The room buzzed with excitement. Health insurance was a dream Huang had never been able to afford. Lin thought of Mai's heart medication, the bills that kept her awake at night. "So that's what he told you Friday?" Lin asked. Huang nodded. "He wanted me to know privately first to be sure I understood there's no strings. He's not involved in the deal, just recommended us." Tung, usually quiet, spoke up. "Why'd he do it after you threw him out?" Huang's eyes softened. "I asked him that. He said, because that's what my grandmother would have done." Lin thought of Mai's stories about Lan, her fierce loyalty, her belief in second chances. It fit. "What's next?" Lin asked. Huang explained, "If we accept renovations start next month, we'd stay open most of the time, maybe close a week for major kitchen work. It'd mean more hours, more responsibility. I'd need shift supervisors, a manager for the new section." The staff exchanged glances, their faces brightening at the possibilities. "I haven't said yes yet," Huang added. "This affects you all. I need your input." Thao laughed. "Are you kidding?" "Say yes, this is what we've been praying for." Others nodded, their voices overlapping. Lin knew Huang's struggles: leaky roofs, broken AC, outdated grills. This was a lifeline. But Huang raised a hand. "I'm still processing. Part of me feels weird accepting help tied to Marcus, like I'm compromising something." Lin chose her words carefully. "Grandma says good can come from strange places. Maybe this is one of those." Tung, surprising everyone, chimed in. "It's not like you're endorsing him. You're taking money to feed people, employ people. That's not about politics." Huang looked around, taking in their hopeful faces. "You're right," she said slowly. "I've been overthinking." She squared her shoulders. "I'm accepting the offer." A cheer erupted. Thao hugged the waitress beside her, and Tung cracked a rare smile. As the excitement settled, Huang spoke again. "One more thing. When this happens, I want to change how we run things, not just the building, but our heart. Starting with our door policy. From now on, the Oakwood Diner serves everyone. No exceptions. We can disagree with folks, but we don't turn away the hungry. That's not us. Lin felt a surge of pride. Huang's journey from that first night to this moment was profound. After the meeting, as they prepped for opening, Lin found Huang by the window, gazing at the empty storefront. "Can you believe it?" Huang said softly. "A month ago, I was stressing over the electric bill. Now I'm planning an expansion." Lin nodded. "Have you told your mom?" Huang's face softened. "Last night. Told her everything, turning Marcus away the dinner, the offer. She said Dad always believed businesses should unite communities, not divide them. He'd approve politics or not." "There's something else Marcus said Friday." Huang added, her voice thoughtful. "He was in Oakwood because our town's been on his radar for months. Not big enough for corporate chains, not small enough for tourist charm, just regular folks trying to get by. He said those are the places that need help most." Lin let that sink in as she filled salt shakers. It was odd to think Marcus saw potential in Oakwood before the diner incident, that he might have helped anyway. Or maybe, as Mai said, life was full of circles connecting in ways no one could predict. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind. Huang signed the investment deal, and contractors began surveying the storefront. The diner stayed open, though sawdust and noise became part of the daily rhythm. Lin took on more duties, training new waitresses from the local recovery center, a program Huang started to give second chances to those rebuilding their lives. One evening, Lin got home to find Mai watching the news. Minjuk was outside the diner, reporting on its expansion. "The Oakwood Diner, once a flashpoint of controversy, is now a beacon of community revival," he said. Lin rolled her eyes. "They make it sound so dramatic." Mai chuckled. "It is dramatic in its way. A man rejected a town, changed all from one choice." Lin sat beside her. "Do you think Marcus knew it'd turn out like this?" Mai shook her head. "No one knows how kindness will land." "But he chose it anyway." She opened the photo album, lingering on Lan's fierce smile. She'd be proud of him. Lin nodded, thinking of Marcus's visit since the dinner. He came monthly, always sitting at the same window table, ordering eggs over easy working on his laptop. He'd become a familiar face, not as a CEO, but as a person. One afternoon, Marcus stopped by during Lin's shift. "How's your grandmother?" he asked, setting down his briefcase. "Been meaning to visit her." Lin smiled. "She'd love that." "Her doctor says her heart's stronger than ever." Marcus nodded. "Good to hear. My offer stands. If she wants to record her stories about my grandmother, my family would cherish it." Lin promised to remind Mai. As she turned to go, Marcus added, "By the way, that scholarship program we talked about, it's launching this fall. Make sure you apply." Lin's face lit up. "Really, that's amazing." Marcus shrugged. "You've earned it." Later, as the lunch crowd thinned, Lin watched Huang chat with Marcus as he paid his bill. There was no trace of the tension from that first night, just an easy respect. Lin thought of Mai's words about circles, about how one moment Huang's rejection, Marcus's response, had spun out to touch so many lives. The diner wasn't just a business now. It was a hub, a place where stories converged and futures began. And as Lin looked out at the half-finished storefront, she felt a quiet certainty. The Oakwood Diner's story was far from over, and its next chapter promised to be even brighter. The Oakwood Diner had become a beacon in a town once overlooked, its story woven from rejection, kindness, and the courage to mend what was broken. Marcus Grant's choice to respond to Huang's refusal with generosity had not only saved the diner, but had sparked a revival that reached far beyond its checkered curtains. Huang, now embracing a new vision, led the diner into uncharted territory, while Lin stepped into her own future, guided by her grandmother Mai's wisdom. The threads of an old friendship between Mai and Marcus's grandmother Lan tied the past to the present, but it was the promise of tomorrow that held Oakwood together. As the diner's transformation unfolded, the town discovered that the most revolutionary act might just be choosing connection over division. Spring had given way to a warm July, and the Oakwood Diner gleamed with new life. The renovations funded by the investment Marcus had recommended were complete after a hectic 8-day closure in April. The wall between the diner and the vacant storefront next door was gone, doubling the seating capacity. A sleek new counter curved into the expanded space, and large windows flooded the room with light. Yet some things stayed the same. The blue and white curtains still hung, the bulletin board brimmed with children's drawings, and Wang still brewed the first pot of coffee each morning, insisting no one else got the strength right. Lynn, now assistant manager, had her own desk in a corner office, a small space she cherished. The promotion brought a raise and, crucially, health insurance that covered Mai's heart medication, easing a burden Lynn had carried for years. One July morning, Lynn arrived early to check a delivery. As she matched the invoice to boxes of supplies, the bell above the door jingled. Marcus Grant stepped in, a leather briefcase in hand, his usual warm smile in place. "Morning, Lynn," he greeted. "That window table free." It was his spot, claimed during his monthly visits since the dinner 6 months ago. "All yours," Lynn confirmed, grabbing a coffee carafe. Marcus settled in, ordering his standard 2 eggs over easy wheat toast, crispy bacon, and opened his laptop. Lynn poured his coffee. "Huang's training new staff, but she'll be out soon." Marcus nodded. "No rush. Got plenty to keep me busy." Huang had hired 5 new employees, including 3 waitresses from the local recovery center, part of her initiative to offer jobs to those rebuilding their lives. The diner hummed with energy, a far cry from the struggling eatery Lynn had joined 2 years ago. As Lynn moved between tables, she caught snippets of conversation: construction workers discussing a new factory on the town's edge, teachers planning a back-to-school fair, a young couple sharing news of their approved mortgage. Oakwood felt alive, a pulse of possibility running through it. The investment fund Marcus introduced hadn't just saved the diner. It had backed 6 other local businesses. The hardware store reopened with a tool rental section, the old movie theater was being restored, and a downtown lot was now a small business incubator. During a lull, Lynn stopped by Marcus's table to refill his coffee. "How's your grandmother?" he asked. "I owe her a visit." Lynn smiled. "She's great. Her doctor says her heart's stronger than ever. She'd love to see you." Marcus's eyes crinkled. "Good to hear. My offer still stands. If she wants to record her stories about my grandmother, my family would treasure it." Lynn nodded. "I'll remind her." As she turned to go, Marcus added, "Oh, and that scholarship program application's open this fall. Don't forget to apply." Lynn's face lit up. "That's happening." "Amazing," Marcus shrugged. "You've earned it." Lynn. Later, as the lunch crowd thinned, Lynn watched Huang chat with Marcus as he paid his bill. Their ease was striking, no hint of the anger that had defined their first encounter. Huang laughed at something Marcus said, her shoulders relaxed, her smile genuine. Lynn joined Mai at her usual table, where she knitted and chatted with regulars. "Penny for your thoughts," Mai said, her needles pausing. Lynn sat across from her. "Just thinking how much has changed. Not just the diner, but the whole town. All because of one moment that could have gone so differently." Mai nodded. "Life hinges on small choices, dear. What we do when we're hurt or angry shapes the path." They watched Marcus shake Huang's hand and head out, stopping to greet regulars. He was no longer a stranger or a headline, but a familiar face, a man who ordered eggs and tipped well. "You know what's the most surprising thing Marcus did?" Mai asked, her eyes twinkling. "What's that?" Lynn leaned in. "He showed that people with different lives, different skin, different dreams can still treat each other with respect. Still find common ground. In times like these, that's revolutionary." Lynn let the words sink in as Marcus's car pulled away. The shock wasn't his post or the investment. It was the bridge he'd built, a path for people to meet instead of turn away. The diner's success rippled outward. Huang became a quiet leader in Oakwood's revival, partnering with the recovery center and mentoring new business owners. Lynn enrolled in community college part-time, her scholarship application ready for Marcus's program. Mai visited the diner often, her stories about Lan drawing in customers who loved her warmth. One evening, Marcus brought his sister to meet Mai, and the 3 spent hours sharing memories of Lan, laughter mixing with tears. Lynn watched from the counter, feeling the weight of those circles. Mai always spoke of lives connected across time and distance. Months later, on a crisp October morning, the diner hosted a ribbon cutting for its expanded space. The town gathered locals, business owners, even Minjush, who'd finally gotten his exclusive interview with Huang. She spoke briefly, thanking her staff, the community, and Marcus, who stood quietly in the crowd. "This diner's always been about bringing people together," Huang said, her voice steady. "We lost sight of that once, but we won't again." The crowd clapped, and Lynn caught Marcus's eye. He gave a small nod, his smile proud but humble. As the event wound down, Lynn found Mai outside watching kids play in the new waiting area, a cozy space with benches and heaters. "What do you think Land would say about all this?" Lynn asked. Mai's eyes crinkled. She'd say her boy did good, and she'd tell us to keep going, keep building bridges, keep feeding folks, keep making room at the table. Lynn hugged her grandmother, the diner's lights glowing behind them. Oakwood wasn't perfect. Disagreements lingered, challenges loomed, but it was stronger bound by a story that began with a closed door and ended with an open one. As Lynn returned to work clearing tables and greeting new faces, she carried Mai's words. The most revolutionary act wasn't loud or grand. It was the quiet choice to respond to rejection with kindness, to see past differences, to build something lasting. Marcus Grant had done that, and in doing so, he'd changed a diner, a town, and the hearts within it. Lynn looked out at Oakwood's bustling streets, the diner's bell jingling with every customer, and felt a certainty this was only the beginning, and the bridges they'd built would carry them far. As the story of Marcus Grant in the Oakwood Diner draws to a close, I wonder, where are you reading this today? Whether in a small town like Oakwood or a sprawling city, kindness can cross any divide. If this tale of choosing compassion over conflict touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And stay tuned for another story of unexpected connection, one where a single choice reshapes lives. In a world quick to divide, remember, the most powerful act might be treating others with dignity, especially when we disagree.